Hare Krishna.
Hare Shri Radha Gokulananda ki jai. Shri Sitaram Lakshmana Hanuman.
Jayo Jayo Gaura Chandra Arati Goshoba Jayo Gaura Chandra Arati Goshoba Jamba Jagajana Manalopa Gaurange Harati Shobha Jagajana Manalopa Nitai Gaura Hari Bol Nitai Gaura Hari Nitai Gaura Hari Bol Nitai Gaura Hari Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Vastyakya Dashatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hey Tanya Nityananda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Chaitanya Thank you so much for attending the Arati. We will say now Pramadvani prayers, the prayers to glorify the previous acharyas and devotees. So you can bow down if you can, and if you cannot, if your health doesn't allow you, you can fold your hands. And whenever I say ki, please say Jai. So Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajacharya Ashtotarshat Shishimat, His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajacharya Ashtotarshat Shishimat, His Divine Grace Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada ki. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki. Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivas Adi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki. Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shyama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan ki. Vrindavan Dham ki. Mayapur Dham ki. Jagannath Kshetra Dham ki. Ganga Mai ki. Yamuna Mai ki. Tulsi Maharani ki. Harinam Sankirtan Yagya ki. Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda ki. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. So we will sing now the Narasimhadev prayer. The prayer to Lord Narasimhadev. So if you can please sit down for that time.
You want to sing Narasimhadev? Yes? Do you know the lyrics? Jai. Okay, you will get it. This is good? You can come close. Just wait a little bit.
Should I start?
Everyone, if you just can sit down for this prayer for Narasimhadev, we will thank for you.
Namaste Narasingaya. Namaste Narasingaya. Namaste Narasingaya. हिरण्यकाशीपूर्वक्षः
So there will be a Bhagavad Gita class starting shortly if people would like to stay for the class. Otherwise, there is prasadam outside as well. Hare Krishna.
Martin.
want them to... No. Yeah, as in these ones. It's called Bridge. Jay Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jay Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girvaradhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girvaradhari Jaya Yashodanandana Vraja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Vraja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Bihari. Jaya Gopi Janavalabha Girivaradhari. Jaya Gopi Janavalabha Girivaradhari. Jaya Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Prabhupada ki. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So reading from the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 10, titled The Opulence of the Absolute, verse number 36. Does everybody have? No. There are some Bhagavad Gitas still there, Mataji needs. So that's 10:36. Dhyutam Chalayatam Asmi Tejas Tejasvinam aham jayo smi vyavasayo smi sattvam sattvavatam aham dhyutam chalayatamasmi tejasvinamaham jayosmi vyavasayosmi sattvam sattvavatamaham dhyutam chalayatamasmi tejasvinamaham jayosmi vyavasayosmi sattvam sattvavatamaham dhyutam chalayatamasmi tejasvinamaham jayosmi vyavasayosmi sattvam sattvavatamaham. Prabhus? You can recite the. Yeah. Dhyutam chalayatamasmi tejasvinamaham jayosmi vyavasayosmi sattvam sattvavatamaham. Anybody else? Dhyutam chalayatamasmi tejasvinamaham jayosmi vyavasayosmi sattvam sattvavatamaham. Yes? Dhyutam chalayatamasmi tejasvinamaham jayosmi vyavasayosmi sattvam sattvavatamaham. Word for word. Dhyutam, gambling. Chalayatam, of all cheats. Asmi, I am. Teja, the splendor. Tejasvinam, of everything splendid. Aham, I am. Jaya, victory. Asmi, I am. Vivasaya, enterprise or adventure. Asmi, I am. Sattvam, the strength. Sattvavatam, of the strong. Aham, I am. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. Translation. I am also the gambling of cheats, and of the splendid I am the splendor. I am victory, I am adventure, and I am the strength of the strong. If you want to repeat. I am also the gambling of cheats, and of the splendid I am the splendor. I am victory, I am adventure, and I am the strength of the strong. Purport. There are many kinds of cheaters all over the universe. Of all cheating processes, gambling stands supreme and therefore represents Krishna. As the Supreme, Krishna can be more deceitful than any mere man. If Krishna chooses to deceive a person, no one can surpass him in his deceit. His greatness is not simply one-sided, it is all-sided. Among the victorious, he is victory. He is the splendor of the splendid. Among the enterprising and industrious, he is the most enterprising, the most industrious. Among adventurers, he is the most adventurous, and among the strong, he is the strongest. When Krishna was present on earth, no one could surpass him in strength. Even in his childhood, he lifted Govardhan Hill. No one can surpass him in cheating. No one can surpass him in splendor. No one can surpass him in victory. No one can surpass him in enterprise. And no one can surpass him in strength. Mangalacharan. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Utapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunatanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadhavaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamascha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhyubheva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Thank you everyone for joining. I pray that wherever I speak, I remember two things. One is that it's not me speaking, it's Vyasadeva and I'm just an instrument. And the second, that this is for purification for myself as well as all of us sitting here. So I pray that all of us can really take away something and transform our lives in Krishna consciousness through the class. So just reread the translation of the verse that we're going to read. So that's Bhagavad Gita 10.36. The chapter is titled The Opulence of the Absolute. Verse 36. I am also the gambling of cheats, and of the splendid I am the splendor. I am victory, I am adventure, and I am the strength of the strong. So the first part of the translation, and even in the purport, we read that Srila Prabhupada is talking about how there are many kinds of cheaters, and Krishna is this topmost cheater. And even the verse itself starts off with, I'm the gambling of cheats. So to put this chapter in context, we can go back and understand, okay, what's going on in the Bhagavad Gita, what's going on in the chapter. So throughout the Bhagavad Gita, it's a conversation between Arjuna and Krishna, as we all know. And in this chapter specifically, Arjuna starts off by asking Krishna, a couple of verses in, three specific things. Number one, can you describe your qualities, your opulences? Number two, how can I always think and remember, know you? And third, what are the forms by which we can remember Krishna? And these verses, after that, Krishna starts to explain that my opulences are limitless, but I will explain the prominent ones just for your understanding. And when Krishna is saying that to Arjuna, we can understand and take it for ourselves as well. How can we see and understand Krishna's opulences? So, in previous verses, Krishna is explaining many different opulences, and in this one, he starts off by saying, I'm also the gambling of cheats. Now, when we think of a divine personality, when we think of somebody supremely good, how is it that he's saying he's the cheat? He's a gambling of cheats. So there's two things here. One is, why gambling? Why not picking pockets? Or why not, the estate agent that, is corrupt, or the policeman that's corrupt and cheating us? Well, the way we can understand the aspect of gambling is that if we look at any sort of cheating propensity in the world, gambling is the most dangerous of all. Somebody can start by gambling and go, okay, I'll go to slots machine today. One day, one attempt. One attempt turns into 2, turns into 5, turns into 10. Before you know it, they spent the whole night in the casino and they've lost not just their wallet, but their house, the neighbor's house, everything. And there are many, different Kami movies, etc., that I'm sure we who are not pure devotees by birth have seen at some point in their life, where it's showcasing all of this, even TV shows, etc. So that's how we can understand the gambling aspect. So from scriptures itself, we can also see that the most dangerous situation that Krishna's devotees, during the time that Krishna was present on the earth, the most dangerous position that they went through is through a gambling match. So the background with the Bhagavad Gita, to go even further back, Mahabharata. How did the Mahabharata start? What? Yudhishthira? Do you want to get the mic, by the way, as well? It'll be easy. Sorry. Through a gambling match, right? It might be turned off. So whilst we're waiting, it started off with a gambling match by Yudhishthira with Duryodhana and everyone else. And we can see just through that example within our scriptures that here's somebody, as Kshatriyas, if somebody was to challenge them, then they have to accept, right? That's one aspect. And there are many other things as well with how Yudhishthira actually loved gambling and so on and so forth. But from our scriptures, we can understand that, okay, there's a gambling match. Okay, that's okay, But then through that gambling match, we see how Yudhishthira is like pulled, like he's a puppet on a string, where he's winning small amounts, sometimes not winning at all. But the small wins get him to think, oh, I can win more, I can win more, I can win more. And equally, Duryodhana and Shishupal and everyone else, I forgot the uncle's name now. Shukuni, that's it. They're all encouraging Yudhishthira, like, play one more, play one more, play one more. First it's, okay, whatever's on the table. Then it's, okay, let's start betting on the kingdom a bit. Go on. And then let's bet on your wife, Draupadi. Snap. Everything gone. The wife is gone. His own brothers are gone. Everybody has been lost. Everything has been lost in the gambling match. And this is the nature of gambling. Whoever gets bought into gambling even once, we're not strong Superman, we're not God, and we all get bought into the gambling, and then we all give in and subside. And then we lose everything. But it's interesting because if we go back to the verse, Krishna is saying that he is the gambling of cheats. So how can we see Krishna in that situation as well, right? I mean, here's a gambling match. How on earth was Krishna so, present in that gambling match? Of course, there's one aspect of Draupadi's Prastaharan and so on and so forth. But another way we can see this is actually...
I would like to guess.
Go on. Do you want to take the mic?
I think Krishna... Hello?
Okay.
So I think as you say that Krishna is all attracted, I think Krishna is also trying to say that the attraction that I'm gambling is also me. And beware, because once you are in, there is no end to how much you will get into it. Because that's my opinions as well.
Yeah, so what you're saying is, just for the benefit of everybody online as well, is that Krishna is all attractive, and therefore the attraction that people have towards gambling is Krishna as well. That's a really nice way to see it as well, actually. the way I was looking at it is I was going to the purport and reading this specific line. Krishna can be more deceitful than any mere man. If Krishna chooses to deceive a person, no one can surpass him in his deceit. So the way I was seeing this and understanding this is that if we look at what happened with Duryodhana, Shakuni, etc., versus what happened to Yudhishthira. On the one side, Duryodhana and Shakuni were cheating the Pandavas. And they took everything from Yudhishthira, right? Took everything from the Pandavas. So they deceived Yudhishthira. But if we look at it from Yudhishthira's perspective, he lost everything in the gambling match. You know, that's a place of being morose, you know, lamenting. You know, I lost my brothers, I lost my wife, you know, my wife was, her chastity was in question. But then if you see it another way, Duryodhana and Shakuni gained everything material, but lost everything spiritual. They lost themselves in that gambling match. Whereas Yudhishthira and the Pandavas, they lost everything material, but they gained everything spiritual. They gained Krishna. They still had Krishna. They never lost him. So isn't that a deceit from Krishna himself? He went to Duryodhana, he went to Shakuni in the form of the gambling match and was like, okay, you can take whatever you want. You know, you want to cheat, you cheat. You gamble as much as you want. You win today, but tomorrow after the Mahabharata war, they lost everything. Whereas the Pandavas, they lost the small fight, you know, of the gambling match. They had to, you know, suffer for 13 years in material terms. But at the end, they won the kingdom. They had Krishna by their side the whole time. So, you know, who actually lost the gambling match, right? Krishna's deceit was present even in that gambling match, just by the fact that Krishna is Krishna. Another example of Krishna being a very deceitful person is midway during, well, I think it was just a couple of days into the war, where the battle's going on, the Mahabharata was going on, and as most of us probably know, Bhishma is the greatest, you know, warrior there is, and he's fighting from Duryodhana's side. And then there's Arjuna, there's the Pandavas and Krishna, etc. But Krishna's not fighting, so it's, you know, if you look at it from a army perspective, Duryodhana's army is much more qualified to actually win the war. A couple of days in, Bhishma's not getting through to Arjuna. They're battling out for a couple of days, but Bhishma's not getting the upper hand, and Arjuna's not losing. So Duryodhana's always chastising. He's very egotistical, so he's always going to Bhishma like, oh, you know, you're not fighting to the best capacity. Because they're your nephews at the end of the day, of course you're going to be lenient, blah, blah, blah. And on this specific night, Bhishma's mentality, his mental switches. He goes, right, you know, you're challenging me, like you don't trust me when I've been fighting so hard for you this whole time. Pre-Mahabharata, you know, even during Mahabharata, I've been fighting for you. I've been loyal to you. When I had the chance, I didn't leave your side. I stayed to fight with you. But fine, you know, you've questioned it. Bhishma then puts all of his potency, all of his energies into 5 arrows. 5 arrows. Arrows, yep. And he gives them, you know, 1 for Bhishma, 1 for Yudhishthira, 1 for Arjuna, 1 for Nakul, 1 for Seva, the 5 Pandavas. And he says, right, with these 5 arrows, I will, you know, get rid of all the Pandavas tomorrow. But if anything happens to these 5 arrows, that's it. I won't be killing them. Duryodhana thinks he's clever. He's like, okay, I see your plan. You're going to put all your potency in the arrows. You're going to take the arrows into your camp. You're going to let the arrows be, you know, let alone, and then somebody will steal them, take them away, and then get rid of them. And then tomorrow morning you come to me and be like, oh, somebody stole the 5 arrows. So Duryodhana thinks he's smart. He goes, I'll look after the 5 arrows. So there's a background story that I'm going to jump to here, and that is that there was a point in time when the Pandavas were actually in exile. They were in the forest from losing the gambling match. And Duryodhana decided that he was going to be a bit cheeky and a bit like show off his pride, his position. So he's like, you know what? We're going to go to the Pandavas, set up a tent right next to them, and showcase, like we're living in such great opulence whilst you're living in, a small hut, barely got anything to eat, etc. So Duryodhana plans that, he prepares for it, and they're on their way. And on their way, Duryodhana's thirsty, so they drop off at one of the lakes. And he's drinking water, or he tries to drink water. But there are Gandharvas there. And Gandharvas have a special power, which is that they can turn invisible. And they're very, very strong Kshatriyas, strong warriors. So the Gandharvas are already at the lake, they're already drinking water, and Duryodhana's like, move, I'm here, I'm the king. I get to drink first, you guys move, come back afterwards. But Gandharvas, they're strong, they're Kshatriyas. They're not gonna just back out just because one person said, right? So they have a clash, and in the end, they decide, okay, you know what, fine, you want to be like arrogant? Fine, let's go to war. So the Gandharvas use their special power and they go invisible. And then Duryodhana and his army are getting attacked from all different sides. No idea where the arrows are coming from, it's just like the arrows are coming from midair. And Duryodhana gets caught, gets wrapped up, and then he's just hung, basically. Not hung to death, but just like hung. And news gets around, and Duryodhana's wife then goes to the Pandavas seeking for help, like, please, like, even though he's done bad, he's your cousin, like, please help him. And Arjun, Krishna arranged, has the ability to chant a mantra by which the invisible become visible. Convenient, is what a modern person would say. So Arjun, but the rest of the Pandavas go to the scene and free Duryodhana. And Duryodhana is like, oh gosh, like how could he take help from the Pandavas, from my enemies? Chastising his wife, Nowadays, people chastise their wife for little things. The same thing here, like his wife went to save him and she's getting chastised just for approaching somebody who has the ability to save him. Like, what is this arrogance, So he gets saved, and then he feels indebted. He's like, I don't want to keep this debt on me. So he goes, okay, Arjun, like, tell me, what can I give you? Arjun's like, I'll tell you, I don't have anything right now, but when the time comes, I'll request. Now Krishna and Arjun are sitting in the camp, and Krishna's laughing whilst these 5 hours conversation is taking place between Bhishma and Duryodhana. So Krishna's like, Arjun, you remember a little promise? No? Okay, let me remind you of the promise that Duryodhana promised you that when the time comes, he'll give you whatever you ask for. This is the time. Bhishma has 5 arrows. He's given them to Duryodhana. Go to Duryodhana and ask for those 5 arrows. And it's interesting. We have a war currently going on between, Ukraine and, and Russia. And, I don't think this would happen in there, whereby, one party in the middle of the night, one party is going to go, okay, you know what, I'm just going to go over to the other person's camp and say, hey, we're friends at the end of the day, we're family, let's just have a little pint together, etc., etc. But in the olden days, there was culture to war. There was actually culture. In the day, there were enemies, because between sunrise and sunset, that's when the war takes place. But as soon as sun sets, that's it, the friends are friends again. They might be on opposite sides of the camp. They were family, they were on opposite sides of the camp. But in the middle of the night, they'd go unarmed to the opposite person's camp, enjoy the whole night there if they wanted to, as long as they got back in the morning, otherwise they're in enemy territory during sunrise, right? So Arjun walked over, went to Duryodhana and was like, oh, remember the promise? He was like, yes, tell me, what can I give you? So Arjun goes, can I have the 5 arrows? Duryodhana, despite being so malicious, despite being so egotistical, despite being such a bad person, he also had culture. There was a culture to being a demon back in the day, right? Nowadays, demons are just demons for no reason, but there was a culture to being demon back in the day. And so he was like, okay, I see what's happened. Krishna's put you up to this, but I promised you, so I'll give you the 5 arrows. The only chance Duryodhana really had of defeating the Pandavas, he gave it away because of a promise. All because Krishna was so deceitful. So yeah.
In a way, sorry, I find the entire 18 days just full of Krishna's deceit after deceit, isn't it? In a way, every main character, the way.
Yeah. Every day of the Mahabharata war included some sort of deceit, practically. But yes. Did you have a question? Was that good? Arrows, okay. Yeah. But, okay. So, that's gambling, right? That's gambling, being a cheater. Let's go to splendor. Now, I'm going to actually go to the Sanskrit here. If we look at the Sanskrit in line 2, it says, Tejas vinamaham. So, how many of you recognize the word Teja? Teja. What does Teja mean? Brightness. Sorry, what? Power? Okay. Any? Teja, Sankritam Prabhu? Teja. Effulgence. Effulgence. So it's interesting because Srila Prabhupada decided to translate it as splendor of the splendid, which also, in some way means like the power, the potency, the effulgence, etc. And I actually just Googled the word splendor and splendid just to see what the actual definition of it was. And the word that came was magnificent and the magnificence. So Krishna is the magnificence of the magnificent. So how can we kind of understand this, right? Now, there are many ways, right? And one way that I could kind of see is there's a pastime with Arjuna and Krishna again. Now, we've already talked about Arjuna during a war. He's a Kshatriya, and, he's a great Kshatriya. He's one of the best Kshatriyas there is, one of the best archers there are. So naturally, if he's fighting Kshatriyas or the Kshatriyas, he's like, maybe he'll be challenged, But then there's a pastime whereby Krishna has left his wives with Arjuna. I don't remember the background there, but so Arjuna's looking after the wives of Krishna. And some hooligans come, some street hooligans, some, some local thieves, as we would call them. So, they have no chance against Arjuna. Like, even if there's 10, 20, 50, 100, I mean, in the Mahabharata war, Arjuna was daily killing like thousands, 10,000s. So these, what chance do these poor guys have? Like, what are they doing, Trying to harass the wives and, when Arjuna's standing right there. Let me give you a secret. Arjuna couldn't defeat them. Arjuna, a big Kshatriya, he's fighting big battles. He's winning the Mahabharata war against, Bhishma, Dronacharya, Duryodhana, Dushasana, etc. He can't defeat, I don't know how many, maybe up to 100 street hooligans. That's a bit embarrassing, no? I know if there was a big guy here and he was into street fighting and then he got beat by a small little puny guy, it would be he'd hang his head in shame. But we can understand this with Krishna's opulence, right? Krishna is the magnificent of the magnificence of the magnificent. When Krishna was with Arjuna on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, Arjuna could defeat thousands of Kshatriyas. He could defeat Bhishma, he could defeat Karna, all of them. But Krishna left Arjuna when Krishna's wives were in trouble. Arjuna's powers were useless because he didn't have any power, because Krishna wasn't with him. So that's another way we can see, is that oftentimes this happens with us even in daily life, people go to the gym or even just normal activities that we're used to every day. People are great kirtaniyas, right? Playing amazing harmonium, singing amazing bhajans, tunes. But one day it's they forget the line. They can't play the tune properly. They can't sing properly. That's when we get purified and realize, hang on a second, like, I thought I was an amazing kirtaniya, I thought I was an amazing singer, I thought I was an amazing speaker, I thought I was an amazing cleaner, whatever it is. But that one moment happens and we realize, actually, that power came from Krishna. That magnificence that existed in me, being a magnificent kirtaniya or whatever it is, was because that was Krishna. Krishna decided to take it away temporarily to make us realize and acknowledge that it's not us, it's him. So the next one, victory, adventure. So the word vivasaya is translated as enterprise or adventure. But another way to see the word, and this comes from Bhagavad Gita 18.59, right? So this specific word, vivasaya, is used there as well. But there it's translated as determination. So that's interesting. Here it's translated as enterprise or adventure, whereas there it's translated as determination. So how can we understand this? Okay, enterprise or adventure. Let's go to an adventurous pastime. This will be interesting. So there's a pastime of a South Indian Brahmana son called Bilvamangala Thakur. He's a great acharya. How many of you know of Bilvamangala Thakur? No? Okay. So Bilvamangala Thakur, as mentioned, he's a son of a Brahmana, so he knows a lot of the mode of goodness, how to be a good person. He was married, etc., but he was attached to a prostitute. There begins the downfall. Now, his father, being very elderly, he passed away. And there's a Shraddha ceremony that takes place when a close one passes away. There's a Shraddha ceremony in the scriptures. So he's performing the Shraddha ceremony. And on that day, it was a very stormy night, right? Thunder, clouds, raining, heavy rain. The rivers were all in turmoil. Waves were rising, crashing. The prostitute thought, okay, Shraddha ceremonies today. Weather's really bad. No way he's going to come. So, cool, I'll lock the house up and just, rest for the day, do whatever I need to do for the day. But he was so determined that as soon as the Shraddha ceremony finished, the immediate thing that came to mind was, oh, I need to go to Chintamani. Chintamani is the name of the prostitute. So he's rushing out in the rain, the storm, passing through the storm. He has to cross over the river. So he's crossing the river, which is, the waves are crashing. And he's at the house, and he's like so blind by his lust and determination for enjoyment that even though the house is locked up, he sees, okay, there's a window, there's an opening, there's a brick missing. Okay, I'll climb up. There's no rope, but he sees that there's a snake there. He doesn't see it's a snake, he thinks it's a rope. He probably thought the prostitute left it for him, to be fair, So he's grabbing onto the snake to climb over the wall and jump in. Chintamani, I'm here, let's enjoy. Chintamani is a prostitute, I'm going to remind you of that. But what she says is profound. She's like, what are you doing? You have so much determination, and I'm going to, she doesn't say this part, but I'm going to link it back to the adventure part, right? That was an adventure to get through all of that, like even today, like we're thinking, okay, like it's obviously a nice day today, but in the middle of winter, it's like, okay, we want to go from Manor to somewhere else, and it's like, it's an adventure to get there half the time, if it's like a really rainy day in London. But here's some, you came all the way this way after your Shraddha ceremony for your dad, through the storm, you climbed the wall to get in. Like, how blind are you? Your determination would be better used if you were to go to Vrindavan and actually showcase that same determination to serving Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. What is this going to get you? Yes, I'm a prostitute, but what is you associating with me going to achieve? All that determination should use there. And Bilvamangar Thakur, there's a reason why he became one of the acharyas for us. He actually took that advice. He something clicked in his head. He went to Vrindavan, and he became, a very proficient scholar, writer, poet for us. And even along the way, his lusty desires kind of manifested when he saw a specific Brahmana's wife. But his determination was such now, because he realized, actually, I know where my determination should be. But his determination was such that he actually gouged out his eyes using the hairpin of the woman who he felt lusty desires for. Determination with adventure, enterprise and adventure. So what can we learn from this? Well, we all love to have adventures. We are social animals. We love adventures. Even introverts, we love adventure in some way, shape, or form. Our adventure might be different to the extroverts, but we still love adventure. And when we think of adventure, before we come into Krishna consciousness, we're always thinking, let's go kayaking, let's go scuba diving, let's go bungee jumping, all these weird and wonderful things. But the real adventure, and it's not a direct quote, it's like a paraphrase of His Holiness Gadamba Kanana Maharaj. The real life's adventure is in Krishna consciousness. Krishna consciousness, as we've all experienced in some way, shape, or form, has many different avenues. There's kirtan, there's prasadam. Everybody loves the adventure of prasadam. There's, shastras. There's reading. There's association. There's service. There's book distribution, which is a big adventure for many. So we have a lot of adventure that we can go through. Going to the last point, I am the strength of the strong. Now this is very, very interesting. Go to the Sanskrit again. Sattvam, sattvavatamaham. What does sattva mean? Sattvam. Mode of goodness, mode of goodness. Srila Prabhupada, we can read in the word for word, he's translated sattvam as strength, sattvavatam as of the strong. Anybody want to try and reconcile those? Anybody want to try to reconcile why in this translation there's sattva, right, is translated as strength, whereas the way we understand sattva is through the mode of goodness. Any tries?
Sattva and sattvam same. I don't think so. Might have some different meaning to it.
The same word has, depending on context, you can use it in different ways. Yes, Boo?
Maybe if you control, not control, but having the mode of goodness, you are controlling the three modes of material nature.
You don't, so just to make sure I understand that, are you saying that if we're in the mode of goodness, then we control the three modes? Is that what you're saying? Kind of. Yeah, so we don't control the modes, right? But we're, of the three modes, ignorance, passion, goodness, we're best situated in the mode of goodness, right? Kind of. It's kind of leading to the direction that I was thinking. Now, when we look at strength in a material concept, we're always thinking, big biceps, triceps, like lifting hundreds of pounds on the weights, and then the standard word, actually don't remember anymore. It's an American term actually, but it's guns. That's it. Like I've got big guns and stuff like that. They're not talking about shooting pistols. They're just talking about like biceps and triceps and stuff. Anyway, that is a type of strength. And it's interesting because obviously Bhagavad Gita is very universal. So we can see strength in that way. We can see sattvam in that way as well. But it's interesting because of the point you were mentioning is that mode of goodness is the strongest of the three modes to help us actually progress in life, right? We're often told, and even in the Gita, is that we should situate ourselves in the mode of goodness because that is most conducive to spiritual progress. Spiritual progress is the real strength. And that obviously comes from being in the mode of goodness as well. So we can see that here. So obviously in the purport, Srila Prabhupada is talking about strength in terms of the direct meaning of the material strength of Krishna lifting Govardhan Hill, He's a small boy and he's lifting a hill that I don't think anybody with these big guns can pick up these days, let alone a small hill. But yeah, in this way we can see, okay, Krishna is the goodness in the mode of goodness as well. Because strength comes, there's material strength, which Srila Prabhupada's talked about in purport, but there's also the spiritual strength, which comes from being situated in the mode of goodness and practicing spiritual practices, that Krishna consciousness. So yeah, I'm just conscious of time. I will end there. So Hare Krishna. Any questions, comments, feedback? Sorry?
It took so much out of Mahabharata.
So much out of Mahabharata, yeah.
Take to remember a lot of things.
But this verse 10 reminds me the verse, I think it's 5, 8, 12 on Srimad Bhagavatam. It's, no, Bhagavata in the Simha. They just say some. It says
Yeah.
that the Nrsimha is sort of false.
Yeah, so it's interesting because actually there's a lot of prayers where Krishna in his different forms has been glorified as being the strength, and the most prominent one is also Sudarshan Chakra, right? Sudarshana, because he's the glance of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and he's glorified. So I'm actually reading in Srimad Bhagavatam right now. I've just, I'm not right now reading for another class. I was reading the pastime of Ambarish Maharaj and the Rasamuni, where Sudarshan Chakra, I won't go through the whole pastime, but the Rasamuni insults in some way a great devotee, Ambarish Maharaj, and he sets off like a demon. But Ambarish Maharaj is a great devotee, is like a perfect devotee, unflinched, doesn't even move, and Supreme Personality of Godhead releases his Sudarshan Chakra to protect him. Demons killed, and the Sudarshan Chakra is chasing after the Rasamuni. Runs all around the universe, trying to get away from the Sudarshan Chakra. And if you don't know, then Sudarshan Chakra, once it's got its target, nothing can stop it. Only one thing, technically, can stop the Sudarshan Chakra. So if the Rasamuni goes to demigods, Shiva, Brahma, etc., we can't help you. Go Vishnu, it's Vishnu's Sudarshan Chakra. So it goes to Vaikuntha planets, tries to pacify Vishnu, go like, save me. But Vishnu is going, you offended my devotee. I can't save you. Because I reside where my devotee is, and you offended my devotee. You should go to my devotee, beg for forgiveness. And so ultimately he has to go to Ambarish Maharaj, and he bows to his feet and prays, please save me. And then Ambarish Maharaj gives a very nice prayer to the Sudarshan Chakra, just glorifying the Sudarshan Chakra and giving all of his spiritual potency in offer to save the Rasamuni. Glories of a devotee. He didn't once, and I mentioned this in that class, in that Sangha, he didn't once go, he's done such bad things to me, he didn't understand what I was doing. No, it was just save him. Whereas me, I'd be like, see him? He's at my feet now. Like, he's understood that he's done wrong to me. It's okay, so let's take a selfie just so that we can see that he's at my feet. And then, every time he does something wrong, I'll remind him, look, remember you did something bad to me? So, yeah, I'll just be like, I don't know, went off. Hare Krishna.
I find this chapter very different from the rest of the chapters because the rest of the chapters are more about conversations and philosophy and a lot of other things, but this chapter completely tries to minds about the opulences of Krishna. It's very easy to forget that because he looks like humans. So yeah, we tend to forget sometimes, I guess. Slowly maybe somewhere we get into human needs and then start thinking, okay, he is also.
Yeah, so what you're saying, again, for the benefit of everyone, is that this chapter is very different to the rest of the Bhagavad Gita because everything else is very philosophical, it's very much conversation-based, but this one is purely about, Krishna's amazing qualities, we look at the altar, although it's closed right now, and we see Radha Krishna, deity forms, they're like just humans. You know, how do we reconcile, you know? It's very interesting. It's really nice you mentioned that, because it ties back to the whole reason of the chapter existing. Because looking at all of these, gambling of cheats, we look at people who go to the casinos, go to gamble, etc., and we're like, oh my God, they're in Maya. But the way we can see it is that actually they're in, okay, fine, you know, it is a Maya thing to do, but gambling is still Krishna. They're still associating with Krishna's energies, right? It's not the Krishna that they should be associating with in the terms of the form, but they have their relationship with Krishna, be it through gambling, you know? So yeah, it's a reminder. This chapter is wonderful because it helps us really remember and see Krishna in everything we have in life. We all drink water. Krishna is the taste of water. We all wake up in the morning and look with our eyes. Can we see without the sun? Can we see without the sunlight? The sun's Krishna. We're all waiting for spring because we love spring. Nobody, well, I say nobody, but I'm sure there are people who like the rainy weather, but even then, the rain is, you know, water. So yeah, it's an amazing chapter.
In a way, that the way it says that he is the month of Kartik, or not Kartik, I think uses the next month. I think. And just,
Okay.
yeah, but that kind of reminds you of how uplifting that time is spiritually, because it seems it is really Krishna in a way. When you see those candles and now
Yeah.
happening in this spot, then you get space to get home.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yes. Any other questions, comments? Apologies, probably came late, but Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki, Shri Prabhupada ki. Oh yeah? Nice. What made you stay for class?
I missed the line.
There's an article at 9 as well.
Mm.